Good morning, children. Today in English in class 11, we continue the lesson Discovering Tut. The saga continues. King Tut died as a teenager, and befitting his status of a king, they were so wealthy, he was buried laden with gold. And he belonged to a powerful family that had ruled Egypt for centuries. On 5th of January 2005, his mummy was brought out of his tomb and a CT scan was done to ascertain the reason of his death. Because at the time of his death, it was not known what was reason or the cause of his untimely death. Being a teenager, it was untimely. So now the scan was going to be conducted. All afternoon, the usual line of tourists from around the world had descended into the cramped rock-cut tomb some 26 feet underground to pay their respects. So that particular afternoon, a lot of tourists had come here to pay their respects and to see the riches that were displayed over there. So cramped means small and crowded, small, uncomfortable and extremely crowded because of the large number of tourists who had come there. They gazed at the murals. That is, they looked at the murals, admired the murals. Murals are paintings on the wall of the burial chamber, that is where King Tut had been laid to rest, and peered at Tut's gilded face. And they looked at and admired with wonder at Tut's gilded face. That is, gilded is a thin covering of gold. The most striking feature of his mummy-shaped outer coffin lid. So he had been laid to rest in a three-nested coffin, one inside the other. So the top part of it was the Tut's gilded face could be seen, and it was a very striking and a feature of the mummy. Some visitors read from guidebooks in a whisper. So the visitors, the tourists who had gathered over there, they read from guidebooks to know more facts and details about the king, and they discussed whispering to each other. Others stood silently, and there were others who were just silent, they were quiet, and they simply looked around. Perhaps pondering time's untimely death. Pondering means thinking about, contemplating what could have been the reason of his untimely death, because we don't expect a teenager in his late teens to die. So some of them quietly contemplated and thought about what could have been the reason or the cause of his death. Or wondering with a shiver if the Pharaoh's curse, that is shiver, that is, there was fear, there was apprehension that when the mummy is brought out, will there be a curse, death or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him was really true. That meant that once the dead are laid to rest, they are not ever disturbed. So they were thinking that probably the curse may fall upon them, it may lead to something terrible, or it may lead to some misfortune, or it may also lead to their death. So those were the different thoughts going on their mind. The mummy is in very bad condition because of what Carter did in 1920s. That was a remark made by Zahi Hawass. That is, in a bad condition, Carter was Howard Carter, who in 1922 had discovered for the first time. He was the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. Antiquities means extremely old objects, and when they are old, they definitely become valuable and precious. As he leaned over the body for a long first look. So the first glimpse, the first look that he had of the mummy, his comment was that it was not in a very good state, it was not in a very good condition because of Howard Carter, the one who had actually discovered. Howard Carter, that is, was a British archaeologist who in 1922 discovered Tut's tomb after years of futile searching. So, in 1922, after years of futile means he had been on the lookout for this tomb for a long time, but finally the breakthrough took place in 1922 when he discovered his tomb. Though its contents, though hastily ransacked in antiquity, was surprisingly complete. Its contents, that means all the contents in that tomb, though hastily ransacked, hastily, quickly, in a hurry. Ransacked would mean to go through a place for stealing things and causing damage, like example of a thief, one can say. So, it appeared from this tomb that it had been ransacked, it had been searched, but thankfully everything was there. They remain the richest royal collection ever found and have become part of the pharaoh's legend. They remain, that means richest royal collection, because King Tut belonged to one of the richest dynasties of the time. So they are today also, they are one of the richest royal collections found and have become part of the pharaoh's legend. And they have become a part of legend. Legend is legend would mean an old story that is passed through generations, from one generation to the other. So it has become a part of this royal collection, has become a part of King Tut's legend. Stunning artifacts. Stunning means very fascinating, very attractive, extremely attractive. Artifacts in gold. Artifacts are man-made. They have, because they are artifacts and because they belong to such an old time, so definitely they have historical importance also. So artifacts actually mean handmade in gold. Their eternal brilliance, eternal means forever, they shine, meant to guarantee resurrection, guarantee to assure. Resurrection means birth, caused a sensation at the time of the discovery and still get the most attention. That is, the royal collection that they found in his tomb still today also remain one of the richest collections in the world and are still admired by everyone. But Tut was also buried with everyday things he'd want in the afterlife. Now, Egyptians believed in life after death also, so that was the reason why when they passed away or when they died, they were laid to rest. He being a king, wealthy, affluent, and powerful dynasty that he belonged to, so he was laid to rest, laden with gold, loaded with gold, and along with that, even things that he would use during his lifetime also were there, thinking that it may be used by him after, in the next life, that is. Board games, a bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine, that is, boxes of food and wine. After months of careful recording, the pharaoh's funerary treasures, funerary related to funeral, that is death, treasures, the valuable objects found over there, Carter began investigating his three-nested coffin. Three-nested coffin, that means one inside the other. So after all the other things had been made a list of, so now he focused on the coffin, which was a three-nested coffin, one inside the other. Opening the first, he found a shroud adorned with garlands of willow and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals, and cornflowers. So he says, when the first lid was open, he found a shroud. Shroud is a cover over a dead body, adorned with, decorated with garlands of willow. Willow is soft wood, and olive leaves, wild celery, and lotus petals and cornflowers. Cornflowers are bluish purple flowers of wild plants. Wild celery is also wild plant. So that does say the faded evidence of a burial in March or April. Faded means naturally the color had worn out. Faded, evidence is proof. So the garlands, the leaves and the petals of these, you can say, flowers and the plants are a proof that the burial must have taken place sometime in the month of March or April. When he finally reached the mummy, though, he ran into trouble. Finally, when he reached the mummy, that means when the next lids were open, he found that there was a lot of trouble. The trouble was that they were not able to separate the mummy from the coffin. He ran into trouble. There was a big challenge. The ritual raisins, that is the customary. Now, raisin is a sticky substance. So, the ritual raisins, that is the sticky substance used, which was customary, used at the time of burial, had hardened, cementing Tut to the bottom of his solid gold coffin. Now, as a result of this use of these raisins, which was a ritual at that time, which was a custom at that time, over the years, it had become hard and it had cemented. That means the mummy of King Tut had got stuck to the bottom of the solid gold coffin. They could not raise it out, they could not bring it out of the coffin. No amount of legitimate force could move them. Carter wrote later what was to be done. So he said that they tried to force it out, they tried to bring it out, but no amount of force was there that helped them in bringing the mummy out of that coffin. Thank you.